We can go ahead and get started if that's all right with everybody. All right, great. Well, welcome and thank you for joining us. We are the Young American Professional Society on the Abuse of Children, YAPSAC. This is the YAPSAC info session, and the goal of this session really is to introduce people who may be interested in getting involved with YAPSAC either as a member or coming to some of our events, and really letting folks know what it is we do and who we are, and get feedback from the folks on this call today so that we can continue to grow our programming really to meet the needs of students and young professionals in APSAC. So real quick, I'm gonna go through and do some introductions. We'll start with the committee members. And then since there aren't too many people on the call, if you want to introduce yourself on the call, you can go ahead and come on video. And if you don't, you can stay off video. So if you're not in a position to get on video or don't want to introduce yourself, we won't make you. So my name is Bree Stormer. I am the Manager of Publications and Special Projects with APSAC, and YAPSAC is one of my special projects. I'm the staff person on the committee, and I am based out of Chicago, Illinois. I'm just going to go with who's on my screen in order. So next I see Kiara.
Hi, my name is Kiara Collins, and I am in Rockville, Maryland. I work for an organization called Apt Associates. I do research, and I'm currently finishing up my dissertation right now. And I joined APSAC and subsequently YAPSAC about 1.5 years ago at the last in-person conference in Utah, and went to the YAPSAC Institute, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but that's how I got to know more about YAPSAC and then was asked to join this committee.
Thank you. Hannah?
Hi, I am Hannah Gilbert. I am in New Orleans, Louisiana. I work at Tulane, but also work contractually with APSAC on some of the development and marketing aspects. I first got involved with the APSAC when I was working with Stacy LeBlanc, president of APSAC at the Child Advocacy Center.
Thanks, Hannah. Leslie?
Hi, my name is Leslie. I am in Brooklyn, New York, and I work for the New York Foundling, and I kind of started with YAPSAC right from its inception in the beginning, and I've been a member of APSAC since I started my job at the Foundling maybe 6-7 years ago, and yeah, it's been fun helping it begin and get off the ground.
Thank you, Leslie. Maggie?
Hi, my name is Maggie Haslam. I'm a new member of the YAPSAC community. I was introduced by Trevor. He kind of introduced me by inviting me to a couple of the virtual events, and I'm a prevention specialist through CAP, and I'm in Greenwood Lake, New York.
Thanks, Maggie. And last, Trevor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Trevor Rauschai. I'm the program coordinator for the New York Foundling's Child Abuse Prevention Program. I, like Leslie, have been with YAPSAC since its inception for a couple of years now. The Foundling and APSAC are kind of partnered on a lot of events and a lot of kind of sponsored things. So it was a natural kind of connection, and it's been a lot of fun kind of getting this off the ground and, you know, organizing some events, and we're excited to talk to you about those events today. So welcome and thanks for coming.
Thanks so much, Trevor. I see most folks have stayed off video, so we can go ahead and get started. Later on, we will be asking folks if they're comfortable to come on video so that we can have more of a discussion. but if you prefer to stay off video, you can always use the chat box feature.
Or just talk without your video if you'd like to.
Or just talk without your video. Yeah, that's fine too. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Leslie, can you go to the next slide? So first of all, we wanted to sort of explain what YAPSAC is, who we are and what we do. So back in 2017, there was a board initiative from the YAPSAC Board of Directors to reach out to students and young professionals working in child maltreatment. So a few of the child maltreatment young professionals in YAPSAC started a committee to talk about how we could make that happen. So the goal of the committee was to create special membership benefits within YAPSAC that catered to students and young professionals in the field, as well as to make sure that YAPSAC membership was affordable to those groups. Over time, we started calling ourselves YAPSAC for Young YAPSAC. Technically, any student or young professional within YAPSAC is a part of YAPSAC. But when we refer to YAPSAC throughout the session, we're sometimes referring to the committee that plans the events and programs, and sometimes we're referring to the kind of YAPSAC membership writ large. So I'm gonna do my best to differentiate those, but we use them interchangeably a little bit internally. So just so that you have that context. Leslie, can you go to the next slide? So I mentioned before that a major goal of the committee was to create special membership benefits for students and young professionals. Those benefits really fall into two buckets. We have resources around professional development and opportunities for networking with peers in your field. So this slide shows some of those benefits, and we'll go into more detail about them next. But as we're going through these activities, we'd love to hear if you have any thoughts about additional activities and resources the committee could offer and make available to you. So one of the major goals of this session is to make sure that we're meeting the needs of students and young professionals, and an ongoing goal of the committee is to meet those needs. So there's really no opinion that's more valuable than yours. We will have the discussion time at the end to share your feedback, but feel free to type in the chat throughout if you have any questions, or speak up, interrupt us throughout the session. So you want to go to the next slide? Yep. So I do want to note that we call the benefits, actually, sorry, go back to the last slide. I do want to note that we call these benefits of joining YAPSAC, but you don't actually have to be a member of YAPSAC or YAPSAC to take advantage of all of these opportunities. So when we're breaking these down later, we'll kind of show you what you need to be a member to take advantage of and what things you can take advantage of for free or without being a member. We know that students and young professionals often have to make tough decisions about how to spend their money. So we work hard to make YAPSAC affordable. We also want to make sure that anyone who can't afford membership or who isn't sure that membership is the right call for them at this point has the opportunity to take advantage of what we have to offer, get to know us a little bit better. And then if you ultimately decide that this is a good choice for you to spend your funds, then you get even more benefits that you can take advantage of. So now I'll pass it off to Leslie and Trevor to start to talk about the fun stuff and get into the Institute.
So I will start, let Trevor take it from there, but this is one of our flyers for an Institute we did in Utah last year at the colloquium that YAPSAC did. We've done 3 institutes now at this point. We are planning another one for this summer, but everybody knows everybody kind of knows what happened to plans. So the Student and Young Professional Development Institute is a full day professional development networking kind of experience where young professionals get to enhance their education through many different means. And as you can see, it was free to YAPSAC members and $30 for non-members, which is pretty cheap, much cheaper than you would get for a larger scale event. So I'm going to go to the next page and kind of let Trevor get into the specifics of how the day is run.
Yeah, so the institutes are by far one of my favorite parts of being a YAPSAC member. Like Leslie said, we've done 3 very successful institutes so far in the past couple of years. So what a day at an institute would look like. So when we talk about child welfare in the field, there are so many different careers and career paths that can lead you into working in the larger field of child welfare. So we would try to make sure that on a general institute day that we have representation from the medical field, the law field, policy work, social workers, case workers, right? Education. We try to make sure that all those different fields are represented at an institute. And how the days typically run, and we keep the same structure for most institutes because it's been pretty successful and pretty engaging. We try to make sure that we have either 1 or 2 panels. One panel might be seasoned professionals who have been in this field for a number of years, written books, done a lot of research, very focused research, kind of the experts in the field, right? And so we'll have them present for about an hour on a panel. We'll allow the participants and the attendees to ask questions, share their experiences, both working in the field and also kind of the before story, right? Like how they got there, what their experience was from college on. Everyone has a story, and sometimes hearing those stories can help you as a young professional build your own path, right? And then in addition to having the seasoned professional panels, you typically had younger professional panels, people who are kind of just out of college or maybe just out of law or grad school and figuring out what the next steps are for themselves. Because again, hearing their stories and bouncing those kind of ideas off one another can also help an attendee or help a participant maybe make the next decision for themselves, the next step for themselves. So we'd have a seasoned professional panel, a young professional panel, and then typically after the panels, we would break out into roundtables based on those sort of fields, subfields or subcategories of the larger field of child welfare. So you might have a table that wants to specifically talk about the medical field and how it pertains to child welfare. You might have an education table, a policy table. Sometimes we base the roundtables off of who are our participants that day, who are on our panels that day, and what the demand is, right? We like to hear from the participants before they even attend and see what they would actually like to hear that day. And we can sometimes base the content around that, which actually works out really well for those that attend.
And we found that this wasn't really our plan when we started, but we almost find that these panels and these roundtables have almost become these kind of like honest, open discussion spaces where participants get to ask all the questions they've been wanting to ask because they are new, they're just getting out of college, or they're about to look for jobs and they've been afraid to ask, or they can't ask during an interview because it might look bad. They pretty much get to ask all the questions to the people they want to ask without the pressure of a job, an interview, a supervisor. So people are asking questions like, how do you deal with the bureaucracy? Or what do you do with a supervisor who is you don't think is being fair? Or how do you confront, you get to ask these questions that you would never ask your own supervisor. And you get to talk to people in the field that you might want to work for them or potentially want their job one day, and ask them, how do I do that? How do I get to where you are? It's definitely led to some people kind of finding mentors and finding paths they want to go down. So this is a really fun part of the day. And then on the round table, you might think you were going to go to the medical table, but then you end up finding a person on the panel that just inspires you, and you follow them to whatever table they're at. So it's kind of a good opportunity to continue a conversation with somebody who might have inspired you during the panel.
Right. And then after the roundtables, typically we've
Didn't put the resume review in there.
yeah, that's what I was gonna go to next. Typical Leslie, jumping straight to the happy hour. So we do typically end the days with a social event. But before we get to that, after the roundtables, we've done a number of different things. We sometimes have resource tables where we're sharing resources as far as job opportunities, job fairs, scholarships, things that we know of that we'll share. And sometimes that's more of an active part of the day, and sometimes it might just be a resource table that's present throughout the day. And then we've also had resume reviews, at least reserve time at the end of the day for resume reviews. So we try to keep the days fairly unstructured as much as we can. We like to keep a schedule, but we also like to make everyone who attends feel comfortable enough to walk up to anybody else and approach them and ask them a question. And part of that we've kind of formatted into an open resume review. So like Leslie kind of mentioned before, if you saw someone speak that morning on the seasoned panel that you were really impressed by and wanted to pick their brain, a great opportunity to do that would be to approach them with your resume at the end of the day during that resume review hour and ask them their thoughts on your resume. Ask them what you could add or remove or kind of just improve on. And it can really help you. And then after we, wrap up, typically in each location that we've done the Institute, we have picked a location away from where we held the Institute, but not too far away, maybe around the corner, a restaurant of some sort where we can go and have a networking kind of couple hours, a happy hour or a networking event where we can be more in a casual setting and just, mingle, chat over a nice bite or a drink. And again, continue the conversation, pick each other's brains, vent, ask each other what your experience was. And, you can learn a lot just from looking left and right and, asking the person to your left or your right what their experience has been like in this field. So again, it's been one of my favorite parts about being an APSAC, doing the Institute days.
And the good part about the networking event, it follows the Institute, is that you get this whole day where it's a very professional setting, and then you get to go to a place where you're relaxing, sitting, and not, get to have a bite, and you can talk to these people. Sometimes the panelists do come. Usually it's the not as much the seasoned, but the young professional panel that comes to the happy hours. But Dr. Pelusi was at the one in New York. He came after, he stayed after, played games with us. So sometimes the seasoned professionals will also come, and you can get to ask questions in a less formal setting and get to know people. Which we saw this definitely in Utah. You kind of get to, as cheesy as it sounds, you kind of get to make friends. If you don't know a lot of people in the field that you're in, you get to meet those people in a less formal setting, exchange information, get to talk to somebody later. We found at the conference in Utah, we had our full institute in the beginning of the week, and a lot of the people that they met that day spent the whole rest of the conference together. They would go to workshops together, they would have lunch together, they would hang out together. So it was kind of a good way in a new city where you might not know people and know where to go to have a little group. So I enjoy that too about the day. So we kind of talked to you, well, actually before Trevor and I were going to discuss a little bit about what goes into planning one, but before we kind of wanted to call on Kiara, who came to two of our sessions as a guest, not as much as a planner, to tell you kind of her experience.
Thanks. I mean, you did steal a lot of what I was going to say, so I would just reiterate what Leslie said. But so you might pick me out. I'm in 3 of these 4 pictures. I went to the one in Utah, and I learned about YAPSAC and went to the conference because I was presenting and didn't really know anything about APSAC or YAPSAC, and got information about the Institute and thought, well, I'm going to be there anyway, why not? But wasn't really sure what to expect. And so as Trevor and Leslie mentioned, I think I went primarily because I was just about to start data collection for my dissertation. I was looking into needing to kind of network and look for jobs in the near future. And so I thought this will be a good way of getting to know people in the child welfare spaces and getting to know about different types of places I could work and look for jobs and stuff like that. And that was definitely a huge part of the day. The panels were really helpful. The resume workshop, I mean, some people didn't participate in it, which is totally fine. I think a lot of people that were there at the Institute did, and I personally found it very helpful to get someone's perspective on, I think, Bree, actually, you even looked at my resume. So I think getting perspective from someone that's in the field already on what they would be interested in looking at a resume, and then even just help, a lot of help in organizing and structuring my resume that I made a lot of changes afterwards for. So that was really helpful. And then, as Leslie mentioned, I actually did find, I was one of the people that found someone. So I was there. I'd never gone to the conference before. No one in my department had really gone to this conference before. And so I didn't know anyone. and I met a woman at the Institute from Australia, actually, and we got to know each other, again, like partially through the day, but I think a lot of just like talking about life and realizing that we had a lot of similarities at the happy hour. So it was really nice to have that informal, just getting to know people as people instead of, you know, what do you do and where do you work and all of those questions. And so we did, whenever we had a session that, or like a period of time where we didn't have a session we really wanted to go to, we go to like the other ones or pick one together or eat lunch or dinner or whatnot together. And her and I still keep in contact on social media and WhatsApp and stuff, even though she's in Australia. So it's kind of fun because of that. And so I think, yeah, so that would be my plug for the Institute and YAPSAC. And then I went to the one in New York as well because I had such a good experience. And I'm in Rockville, Maryland now, but I was in Connecticut up until May. So New York wasn't as big of a distance as it is now.
Thank you. So Trevor, do you kind of want to start and take them through, like, if somebody was to join YAPSAC and wanted to kind of develop one in their city, like what we did?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the greatest parts about these institutes is that they're actually pretty easy to replicate in various locations, as we've done now 3 times. So the first thing that we start to think about is who's the audience, you know, as planners, who's going to be attending, who do we want to attend, and what would they want to see? Because I certainly think that the panels are definitely one of the highlights of the day. So one of the first steps that we do is start reaching out to local panelists in the area of which the institute will be held. So if you're trying to replicate this, you know, if we're going to plan this in the next city next year, maybe hopefully when we're all back together, we would look and see what professionals are working in the child welfare field in that area. Are there you know, prominent universities or hospitals in that area with child welfare researchers or doctors that we can reach out to and ask if they'd participate? So that'd be one step, is building our panels and making those contacts, which in and of itself is a way of, you know, networking, right? Reaching out to people, just kind of cold calling even, or asking, you know, within this network, who knows who in this area, and start there. And then reaching out, sending emails and phone calls and introducing yourself and explaining what the Institute is and asking them if they want to participate is kind of a way of networking in and of itself before the day even happens. So building the panels is definitely one of the first steps. Structuring the day, planning the kind of the order, what you think would be best. Like Leslie had mentioned and alluded to earlier, we usually choose to hold the panels in the morning because in the afternoon, when you have opportunities like the resume review or the roundtables, you kind of already want to have an idea of who was on those panels, what they do, and what their profession is, everyone sees my cat now, I know. what their background is, what their specialty is, so that way you can choose which roundtable to join, or you can choose who you want to approach and ask to review your resume. So that's kind of a decision that we would make as far as why we might have the roundtable scheduled in the morning. You definitely want to start promotion earlier, right? I know that's something Leslie and I have always been mindful to do for the New York one, especially, was, you know, get this poster that you're looking at now, get this poster up and made with the correct information, get the site, the location nailed down, the time, so you can at least get those details out to the general public and start inviting people to come, right? Starting to ask people to block the day off on their calendar and gain interest. So for planning, I would definitely say promotion is a big ongoing part of the Institute, regular promotion and networking, reaching out to people to both participate as panelists and as presenters, but also to participate as guests, as attendees. So we would start planning, I would say, several months before the actual institute were to take place. And you know, there's roles for everyone as far as committee members. Like, it's definitely a team effort, and it's not something that necessarily has to be done by those that are living in that location. You know, the internet's a great thing. We can contact and reach out to people from all over the country and start planning things even while we're all in different locations. So what I miss, Leslie?
Yeah, I think you got it all. And if you're interested in having a career where you're planning events or putting together kind of workshops and conferences, or your job is asking for you to do that, this is a great way to gain experience in that. You can put it on your resume that you planned a conference, you planned an institute, but if you're trying to gain some experience in that way, it's just a great thing to we kind of give you freedom to do that in your city, in your neighborhood. So it's kind of a way to get that experience.
And there are, for the YAPSAC is a large organization. So, even though YAPSAC is a smaller kind of sub organization, the connections and and we're going to talk more about this in a minute, but the connections and the resources that we have as far as just YAPSAC members go, like for a starting point, is quite broad and quite inclusive. So there's a lot of, who knows this person or who might know people in this field, and just kind of reaching out and going from there and using each other as resources. So YAPSAC has quite a wide reach across the country for sure.
So I think obviously things changed, so we went virtual. So one of our newer committee members, Maggie, is going to take this one.
I attended 2 of the virtual happy hour events before I was a YAPSAC member, and it was a lot of fun. Trevor actually introduced me to that, like I was saying before. He invited me to one of the first events, and then I attended the second event. We did 2 truths and a lie as like an icebreaker, which was like a lot of fun. And it was really, really nice having a little break from how chaotic things have been because of COVID, and not really having to worry about it as much and just freely having fun and meeting new people. We also discussed some things like what we did to relax during quarantining and ways that we exercised. And I really loved the convenience of being able to communicate with so many different people from all over the place, all while on Zoom. So that was my little experience from doing the virtual happy hour.
Thanks, Maggie. And Maggie, you actually touched on something that I think is really important to all of us when we plan these events, is the essence of keeping these events, partly professional, partly productive, and rewarding as far as the information that we're going to take from these events, but also partly comfortable, partly reassuring, just, time for us to just connect on a human level in addition to a professional level, and, just what our connection is to each other through our careers, but also our connection to each other through our passions and what we care about, and, just our experiences. And this year we've all experienced a lot. So these times have been really kind of nice for us to come together at different hours, at different times with different goals. So if you're looking at the screen right now, there's on the left, you'll see the YAPSAC Lunch and Learn. It was a lunchtime event that we did. We partnered with it was either grad or undergrad course through Tulane. And they presented to us, and we were there kind of as supportive spectators. We gave our feedback. I learned a few things, and I thought it was very interesting. And it was kind of a way that one was more informational, and that one was more professional. And then if you see the screenshot on the right of all of us kind of on Zoom, that was a Friday night, evening that we all met, and, there was some organized conversation, but there was also, like Maggie said, just a lot of talk about what we're all doing to stay sane and keep ourselves healthy and happy and productive. So the balance is key for all these events for sure.
I think Bree's going to take this one.
Yeah. So when we started this committee really early on, we had the goal of creating a newsletter that had sort of specific resources for students and young professionals. And in 2019, we finally had enough infrastructure that we could launch it. So this is a screenshot of our quarterly newsletter, and it has a lot of sort of regular features. Some of the things that we do regularly, we talk about any upcoming YAPSAC events. So that's where we promote the Institute, any happy hours. We have this session in the YAPSAC newsletter, so this may have been how you heard about it. We do a regular jobs posting, largely from the YAPSAC career website, but I'll pull from some other places as well. We do conferences and webinars with some of our partner organizations and other organizations that we're aware of, different training opportunities. We do a little mini interview with a young professional so that folks have the opportunity to kind of highlight their work and what they're excited about. And we do some writings from committee members and others. So we've done research to practice briefs from students and young professionals. We had a student at Tulane do a series of resiliency tips. It was 3 or 4 little mini tips for staying resilient during tough times. I may actually go back to those, given 2020. We did them in 2019, but I think we need them now. Kelly Hughes, who's on the committee but wasn't able to join the call, does sometimes a policy update for the newsletter. So that's kind of what it is, but we have a lot of aspirations about what it could be as well. So if there are resources that you think would be useful, or if you've got an idea for something you want to write for the newsletter and get out to students and young professionals, please let us know. There are a lot of opportunities to get your own work out there through the newsletter. I think Trevor was the one who highlighted that to me recently, that it's a really great way to promote what you're doing in your own agency or with other organizations, and a great way to get some writing credit. So we'd love to hear from you. And if you're not currently getting the newsletter and you would like to, I'll drop my email in the chat before the end of this. You can email me. Also at the end of this, we're going to provide a Google form with your ability to indicate interest in a whole bunch of things, including writing for the newsletter and receiving the newsletter. So you can indicate that there as well. Want to go to the next slide, Leslie?
So,
All right. Kira's going to take multimedia dialogues.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been talking about that you could get involved in either as a participant or as a helper planning, which we would really love, is this multimedia dialogue around systemic racism, implicit bias, other issues around race. Obviously, because of everything that's been going on in our country, but has really ramped up over the last 4 years. And this year, especially, we wanted to make a conscious effort as a community to become more informed about this. And so the multimedia dialogue has, at its current ideological stage, was built out of all of this committee's ideas about what we would like that to look like. And so the idea, as the page says, is a book club, but not just for books, because people on our committee said, you know, myself included, I think I'm in like 4 book clubs right now, and books can be long, and even with a month, you know, we don't always have the time or ability or desire to spend our time reading a whole book. So we thought about having this multimedia club that could include books, it could include articles, movies, TV shows, podcasts, and really, I would emphasize that these ideas are open to change or new ideas from you if you want to get involved and want to help plan these, because like what it looks like to pick something, what it looks like to, what the platform looks like to engage people are definitely all open for ideas and changes, but this is where we're at right now. And it is something that I am really excited about because I think it's important. The idea is to create a continuous dialogue, not just one webinar or not just one person having to explain something. And oh, another thing that I'll put in here is we also talked about the idea of it not necessarily all of the things we pick being just about systemic racism or the negative aspects of what's going on in the world, but also the opportunity to represent just Black artists in general in all these genres as a way to engage more deeply in literature, movies, etc., that are done by Black people as a way to celebrate that, which is not necessarily as incorporated into our educational systems and the general public. So that's kind of where this was going, and yeah, I'd be interested in hearing anyone on the call, or if you know anyone that would be really interested in getting involved that's not on this call, definitely let them know that this is something we want to do.
Thanks, and I'm posting the Google form right now so that if you're interested, or if you know someone who's interested, feel free to send it along. We're really excited, especially with the multimedia dialogues, to get these things started, but we felt it was very important. This group has been we're growing a lot right now, but it's been some of the same core people for a long time, and we really want to diversify the voices on the committee so that when we're picking our media, we have diversity in the voices of what media we're selecting. And so I think that's one of our next big efforts, and we want to make sure that we aren't in a bubble when we're selecting our media. So we'd love to get folks involved with that. So this next slide is just kind of a basic T-chart, because we've been talking about a lot of different activities and resources, and we wanted to sort of break it down for you. What do you need to be a YAPSAC member to do, and what can you do without being a YAPSAC member? So the easiest way to sort of think about it or break it down is that YAPSAC membership tends to provide more opportunities for professional development, things like committee work, connection with experts in the field, writing opportunities. That's the kind of stuff that you get when you join as a member. If you are not ready to join as a member, or if that's not really where your priorities are at this time, you can take advantage of the resources like the newsletter. You can join us at our events. Most of the events, all of the virtual YAPSAC events so far have been free to all, regardless of membership. The in-person institutes sometimes have a small fee for non-members, but we are definitely open to arranging something if you can't afford it. So taking advantage of those events and opportunities is something that you really don't need to be a member to do. And part of the goal of today is to add a few more people to the left side of the chart so that we can build activities and resources on both sides of the chart. We really want a lot of resources to be available regardless of membership, and we need to grow our committee in order to do so. So that brings us to the pricing piece. So this is the cost to join YAPSAC if you're not already an YAPSAC member. We've got a $30 student membership, a $95 young professional membership. We define that as 5 or fewer years from school. So you don't actually, it's not an age thing. You could have, gone back for a master's degree or gotten a PhD, and you're still YAPSAC. We use the word young, but that you can be young at heart and be in YAPSAC. We also offer a 30% discount for people in the first year. All of this is definitely subject to your own budget. So if this is not doable for you, especially this year with everything going on, if you can't do this, please send me an email and we'll do what we can to make sure that you can be a part of these activities. Really, our goal is to be able to grow the resources that we're providing to students and young professionals, and it's not really about a price tag for us. So that is everything I had. Does anybody have any questions for us that you could type in the chat or come on camera?
And I think we'll maybe stop the share now so we can kind of see everybody's faces, especially for me as the host. I can't see anyone.
Yes, screen share's rough that way.
And feel free, even if you guys, if you don't want to go on camera, if there's lots of stuff going on, you can still unmute yourself and ask a question or type it in the chat. Along with questions, we kind of want to open the floor for current and potential future members and event attendees. If there's something you're looking for or an idea that you have that you would like to see us do in the future, now's the time.
And we've talked, even if there's something that we've talked about, like happy hours, if you think, yeah, I would want to go to happy hours, or like, yeah, that's not really for me, but I would do the lunch and learn. And, I know someone who's got something cool to present on. It can be new ideas. It can also really be interest in any of the things that we've presented.
Well,
I think we're also, you know, the idea of possibly doing a virtual institute is something that I've.
Still in my thoughts.
Is that what you're thinking? Well, that's good because it'll probably be our doing if we have one.
Yeah.
But I do think, you know, look at this is the new reality to some extent, right? And I do think that these institutes that we just talked about, how great they were and how, you know, beneficial they were. And I really do believe that in the next, you know, year or maybe in the spring, there might be a huge benefit to hosting a digital one and maybe making some of the questions more specific to how are interviews being conducted over Zoom now? What are some tips for people who are signing on and going to job interviews on Zoom? And there's a whole different set of hurdles to navigate when you're kind of logging on and you're not necessarily face to face. I know I'm personally I think I'm better face to face sometimes with an interview, and I used to get really nervous over phone interviews. So now this is a whole nother kind of level. So I think that there could be new and different topics to talk about if we were to do a virtual institute day.
And some of the reasons why it'd be great to have new members and new people joining is if you have a suggestion for a panel or person or a specific like type of person that's on the panel, we're always trying to, you know, mix around the panel so we're not having the same people each time or the same, you know, like we're trying to broaden the horizons to what else can be included on the panel in the field of child welfare. Like, doesn't have to be medical, legal, like maybe we're forgetting something. Maybe we can add some new aspects. I was thinking the same thing. We're doing more virtual events and we've done a bunch of institutes, so why shouldn't we do a virtual institute?
Yeah, I think especially, you know, thinking about the job market, it's not as good, but things will start coming back. And, you know, I know a lot of people who attended the Utah Institute. There were a lot of folks who were in jobs who were kind of thinking about grad school, but didn't really know, like, would I go for social work? Would I go for marriage and family? Would I go to law school? And so they got to talk to people who had done a lot of those things and said, like, here's what I would say. And I learned from people, you know, something that I think Kiara really contextualized the benefits and difficulties of going for your PhD in a way that scared me off for at least a couple more years.
I'm happy to scare anyone else off that wants to be scared.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot, Trevor. I think we should do it. And if anybody has any ideas of just like fun things, we were honestly for a while, we were like, what are some, that's when we came up with kind of like the multimedia club is like, what's something non-professional development we can do. So, which is still professional development, but less than like a resume idea. I had this idea for a while that we never got to happen, and it could happen now over Zoom using breakout rooms, but the idea of the practice interview, that either has an institute or its own thing of getting somebody who is used to hiring. I know you see Marion on here, and she has done plenty of interviews and she is the director of the Child Abuse Prevention Program. So having somebody like Marion doing a mock interview with somebody just coming out of college over Zoom, now that is what's happening with interviews, might be, and then after the interview is over, doing a like feedback session with positives and positive things that can be changed and what to look for. I think that might be a good idea. And we have like little Zoom rooms now. We can potentially do that.
Yeah, that's almost easier digitally. We're having trouble sort of in person, like where are we going to get all the space to put everybody in dyads? And now the space is all digital, so that's perfect.
Yeah, and then people can like jump back to the main room and then interview with someone else. You can do schedules, lots of things. So that's another idea.
Leslie, that's a wonderful idea, and it's a perfect time too, because I mean, by the time all that gets organized, it will be early, probably early next year, which is right when people are graduating or starting to look. wonderful idea.
And we could even include resume review in that via like screen share. And I know Stacy, the board president, also the chair of YAPSAC, had something come up and wasn't able to make the call, but she was talking this week on the committee call about how much she loves annotation on Zoom, and it might be fun to try as a committee to see if we could mark up a resume on Zoom the way that we were marking it up in person, because it's a new world. It's even newer of a world than it was. Getting newer every day.
And one of the positives I've always seen about the Zoom, like how everything's become digital, there's a lot of negatives. I miss actually talking to somebody face to face. But one of the things that I have noticed is that we can connect with people that would have never, maybe they couldn't have got to, maybe they, because of life things or financial reasons, couldn't have made it to the Institute. When we did it in New York, we had to look for New York people who didn't have like funds to pay for anybody getting anywhere. So for this potential virtual institute or virtual interview practice, we can get people from all over the country, we can get people from Australia, or I know I have connections with some people in England, and I know YAPSAC has international people. So there's lots of opportunities to connect with people from all over the country, which is kind of cool. Any other ideas, guys?
Hi guys, I just wanted to introduce myself because I was can everyone hear me actually?
Yes.
Okay. I took the ACES class with Stacy last year, and now I'm one of her interns, but Hannah had been the TA for the class, so I remember hearing from about YAPSAC from her, and so I'm glad to finally have an opportunity to learn about it because I've been wanting to for a while now. Things just got kind of paused with COVID. But yeah, I think I really like all the ideas you guys are talking about with basically trying to navigate and make professional development work in the weird COVID situation we're in now that who knows how long it's going to keep going on for. But yeah, like I love your ideas of the virtual institute and even the multimedia dialogues. I think that's a great idea because I know like a book club, like I've always liked the idea of a book club, but like I've always been scared to commit to that because I just like a whole book every month. Like I just don't know if it's gonna happen realistically for me. But yeah, podcasts, books, I think it's a lot more, I think that would be easier for, I think, younger people to commit to and make like a regular part of their schedule. But yeah, I appreciate you guys doing this, and I'm excited to finally hear from everyone and kind of learn what YAPSAC is about.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have one thought. Oh,
Go ahead.
well, I just have one thought because it sounds like, so, I mean, like, Lauren, you came from, like, personal connections, and I mean, even Maggie, you came from personal connections. Do the people here, like, get the emails? Like, I'm just thinking that we're maybe not reaching people in a non-personal way.
I know I get the emails after becoming a member, I believe, and I know Trevor would send me any upcoming events as well. So he was outreach of promoting it. Mm-hmm.
I think that you are kind of tapping into something that we've struggled with, is that when we talk about what we do, and when people get to come to it, it's a lot more engaging than anything else that we've been able to do to promote it. It's really been a word of mouth kind of organization. So any thoughts to improve those communications are definitely appreciated, as well as like you know, capitalize on what's working. If you've got colleagues and friends who you're like, oh, I want them to know about this, or like they would really appreciate like virtual happy hours or the professional development or whatever, like we would be thrilled to have those people. And for anyone who is watching this on YouTube, because I know that quite a few people registered who weren't able to join, and that may have been conflicts, that may have been time zone stuff. I will find a way to post all of the links and everything into YouTube so that you have all of those. And I'll also make sure to include my email so that if you're watching this and thinking, oh shoot, I want to fill out that Google form and get involved with the multimedia dialogues, then you can go ahead and do it that way. And yeah, send it along because, you know, some of this stuff we said you have to be a member, a lot of it you don't, most of it you don't. And so we hope that like if you keep on coming, at some point you'll want to become a member, but that's not our main goal. Our main goal is to create resources for people who are coming up in the field.
It seems like a good stopping place. If anybody doesn't have any other ones, it would be, yeah, we would like to open up the group more. So everybody who was on here today, too, if you know someone, spread the word.
Recruiting through personal connections has been, you know, it's been great because, you know, there's a heightened level of responsibility when you join something through someone you know. But the only thing that we've noticed that we would like to break up a little bit more is the fact that it then results in clusters geographically. As far as we have a lot of New York City members, and then we have like, you know, a cluster of Chicago, and you know, New Orleans is another hotspot because of our connection with Stacy, which is great. It's not like a COVID hotspot; it's a good hotspot.
Don't say hotspot.
As soon as the word hotspot was thrown off, I was like, oh man.
It was going viral. I'm like,
But yes, we would like to, you know, so if, and most importantly too, if anyone has any suggestions as far as promoting or just getting the word out there through social media, you know, we're living in a very digital age, especially, so there's no reason not to try our best to diversify location-wise.
All right, cool.
thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining us. I will drop that Google form in one more time. And if you have any questions or any suggestions, I will put my email in one more time. We hope to hear from you.
Great. Thank you guys again for this.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, bye everyone. Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye.